We all love a good story, right? Where there's a protagonist and they go through this incredible journey and they face these battles and these difficulties and oh my goodness, plot twist, and oh my goodness, there's these unexpected characters that erupt, and oh my goodness, there's all this drama and this intensity and this vitality and vivacious wonder permeating the pages of the book. We all love a good story where there is this main character, a protagonist of sorts, and they go on some journey, some adventure, some quest, and through that they face challenges and difficulties, and they go through these ups and downs, and they learn and they discover and they grow and they expand, and they learn so much on the way. And then there's this climax, and there's this point where we don't know what's going to happen. And there's this point where everything peaks and all of the intensities that have been building, everything from the very first sentence of the story to all of the chapters building up and accumulating energy have built up. And now all of a sudden we're at the climax and we don't know what's going to happen. And all of a sudden everything is suspended. And then it miraculously reaches some beautiful resolution where every little piece of the journey gets tied together. And that protagonist makes it to the other side of their journey, whatever that journey was. And there's this happy ending. There's this beautiful thing that comes from all of this stuff that maybe didn't make sense on the way. And there's this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful conclusion where everything makes sense and everything lines up, and there's all the pieces tie together, and there's this sense of satisfaction, there's this sense of completion, there's this sense of everything just comes together fluidly. We all love a good story, right? We all love a good story. It's a corner staple of the human existence and experience, is that the humans like to tell stories. But you know what the greatest story is? The greatest story is the story that is untold. The greatest story is the story that is written in the mysteries of our body minds. The greatest story is the story that doesn't have an explicit narrative. The greatest story is the story of the cosmos expanding its own miraculous existence through the transcendent evolution of consciousness. We all love a good story. But the most miraculous stories are not the stories we think about, where it says, once upon a time, and they lived happily ever after. The greatest stories don't have an obvious beginning and an obvious conclusion with succinct levels of that middleness where things flow and build in this predictable way. The greatest stories are the stories of divine consciousness. And the greatest stories are the untold mysteries of the body mind. And these are the greatest stories that could ever exist. Whether they are told or untold, whether they are known or unknown, whether they have an explicit narrative dialogue, or whether they are more expansive than a conscious mind could ever perceive or comprehend. The greatest stories are the stories of the light that dances through our beings. And it is invisible, and yet it is everything, everywhere. You cannot look and say, wow, did you see that light ray? Yeah, it was just right there, like a solid object. No. And yet light is everything. Light is everywhere. Light is illumination. And it is very similar to the energies of divine consciousness and the energies flowing through the body mind. You cannot grasp them fully if you attempt to, and yet they are everything, everywhere, permeating every corner of reality, transcending every story that has ever been told, transcending every story that has ever been known. We all love a good story. We all love a good story where you follow the mysteries of a journey, learning and discovering along the way. And things happen you never expected. And some of them are delightful, and some of them are tragic. But as the story progresses, the characters involved in the journey eventually reach their destination, whatever that might be. But here's the thing about divine consciousness and body-mind wiring, and the energies flowing through these two realities that seem to have nothing in common with each other. Body-mind wiring, hundreds of trillions of energetic pathways, carrying memories, mostly unconscious, that hold abstract associations of navigational and regulational programs that tell the energy of the brain and the body how to flow and how to project aspects of reality to interpret abstract potentials into specificities of personal experience. Divine consciousness. Oh yeah, and existing in a mortal human form, right? Existing on the physical plane in like a mortal human form. Divine consciousness, non-physical, infinite, eternal, transcendent, a pureness of beauty, beyond all experience, infinite, limitless. What could these two realities possibly have in common with each other? What could divine consciousness possibly have any association with body-mind wiring? Like, if you look at their realities, divine consciousness is like this infinite, pure essence of just like this transcendent love and like this miraculous beauty and everything. And then body-mind wiring is like all these energies that are like trying to navigate life and relation with like surviving, the well-being of attachment systems, and like, okay, like how do I tell my nervous system to regulate in this moment? And like they just have so many differences. But that's exactly why they play together. That's exactly why they play together. Divine consciousness says, I want to enter into that body-mind wiring, and I want to evolve through it. Divine consciousness says, I want to enter into that body-mind wiring and evolve through it. I want to bring this infinity, this limitlessness, this eternal essence, this transcendent beauty, this timeless knowing, this ancient wisdom, this profound transcendent love and purified essence and cosmic energy. And I want to bring it into a human experience. And I want to use that human experience to know myself in new ways. I want to use that human experience to evolve beyond what already is. I want to use that human experience to reconstruct the human experience. I want to use this as an opportunity to know the totality of my being and to expand even beyond that. And so the greatest stories are not the stories we think about through the human mind and the understanding of stories. The best stories don't have a linear timeline. The best stories don't have an obvious beginning and a predictable conclusion. The greatest stories are flowing through divine consciousness and body-mind wiring, and they are abstract, and they are vibrational, and they are implicit rather than explicit, and they are energetic, and they are infinite, and there is just this infinite quantum field of vibrational essence and existence that doesn't have an obvious story. And yet then we have an opportunity to perceive and explore stories through body-mind wiring as divine consciousness. And when we perceive a story, we then have the ability to resculpt it, because it's not this obvious linear black and white unfolding of explicit particulars. It's this abstract, limitless, energetic quantum field of infinite possibility. And as we adjust that energetic focus, we then have so much more potential in the story of our own existence. We are existing, and there is a story that assists that existence. But it doesn't have to be the automatic story that it was, is, or is projected to be, intended to be. It can be a completely new story. So I have an amazing story to share with you, and it's really fascinating, and it's really unique, and it's really intriguing, and we learn a lot along the way. So play with me here as we explore this story and then learn from it and see how we can use this story and what is learned from it to move forward, to co-create greater realities of expansion through divine consciousness and through the brain-body structures of body-mind wiring. Once upon a time, there was an individual, and they were experiencing life through independently developed memory centers, which basically means that the trillions of energetic pathways in the body-mind were existing and operating independently of one another. There were hundreds and thousands of networks over here that provided a certain type of navigation and regulation in the body-mind. And then there were a bunch of more hundreds and thousands of energetic pathways over here, and they were providing a completely different type of navigation and regulation as divine consciousness encountered life through the body-mind, because the information here was different from the information here, and they didn't have connection with each other. And this was happening through dozens of different memory centers that had developed independently. And this is something that I call a uniqueorder, kind of like unicorns, but with a neuroscientific understanding of the human experience. A uniqueorder is unique order of wiring in the neurobiological social engagement system of the body-mind. Uniqueorder. And so instead of all of these hundreds of trillions of energetic pathways connecting with each other and carrying information that fluidly flows with each other, right? They're not carrying different types of information. There's this unified sense of information that can all connect. Then there's these different regions that have totally different information gathered from different periods of life and or gathered in relation with completely different information about how to fulfill attachment needs. And so there's all these independently developed memory centers. And when they're activated, then they project a certain type of reality for different parts of consciousness. Okay? So there's all these infinite parts of the self and all these infinite parts of body-mind wiring, but now there's dozens of independently developed memory centers, and each of them creates a unique type of personal reality for different parts of the self. And those parts of the self may or may not know about each other. They might not know that those other parts even exist because they've never encountered them, because those regions of the body-mind don't have connection, and maybe they were never activated simultaneously before. And that can create amnesic barriers between parts of the self. And so this individual is experiencing life through independently developed memory centers. And they went on a journey. And they said, I want to understand this. I want to make sense of this. I want to know what's happening within my experience. I want to know why sometimes I love this and sometimes I don't. I want to know why I act this way around people and then different people come around and I feel like a completely different person. And I want to know why I have all these emotions that don't feel good. And I want to know why I have all these habits that really aren't that healthy. And I want to know why all this stuff is happening inside of me, because I deserve to understand this, and I deserve to have the power to transform it if I'm not liking what's happening, right? And so this individual went on a quest, a journey, an adventure, and said, I'm going to figure this out, because nothing had ever been able to make sense of it. Even with years of research and years of exploring assistance through other modalities and years of studying psychology and all of this stuff, none of it ever made any sense. None of it ever made any sense. And so this individual reached a point of just profound potential, right? Profound potential. She was experiencing hundreds of health challenges. This individual was experiencing just dozens and dozens of the most excruciating health battles. Amnesia, unable to create new conscious explicit memories for 4 years. Every type of mental disorder, mental health battle under the sun, like you name it, it was going on. Every type of emotional disruption, every type of action patterned behavioral habitual responses that were just based in the deepest of trauma. Just everything was going on. She's like, all right. So this individual said, okay, this seems like an opportunity. I think this might be an opportunity for me. And so this individual began to study neuroscience and explore possibility. And this individual began to create maps that explain what was happening. She would notice, okay, there's this stuff going on and it seems connected in this way, but then I'm over here in a totally different state of activity and there's different parts of the self present, and then there's this other different type of stuff going on. Different stimulus activates different memory. It creates different types of projections of reality. Okay, and then we shift over here, and now my nervous system is different because I just ate food instead of, being out exercising. And so now my nervous system is adjusting its state, and now there's a completely different type of activity happening inside of me where different types of stimulus are coming in and creating a completely different activation where I'm remembering different time periods of my life, but not through explicit memory, but through implicit projections that are navigating the interpretations of my reality. And okay, now I'm in this state of consciousness and I'm having a completely different experience of my choices and habits and action patterns and what I'm naturally inclined towards. And okay, now there's a shift and I'm over here in this state of consciousness, and now there's a completely different projection about who I am or how I associate with myself or how I feel about my body. Like there's all these different inner realities happening, and she began to map it out. And all of the different states of consciousness contributed. And so even though sometimes there was disruptions in the navigation and parts didn't even know about each other, they all collaborated and contributed to this. And so whenever their state of activity was engaged, they were able to contribute and explain what was going on. And then other parts of the self would come piece together all the dots and start to notice patterns about what was actually happening in the body-mind, what was actually happening where stimulus was coming in, activating information, and that information was being projected to navigate and regulate experience and personal realities, and then create a unique experience for different parts of the self. And this individual began to notice that everything, every thought, every feeling, every movement pattern, every preference, every perspective, every response, every habit, every little thing that was happening in the body-mind regarding how it regulated brain-body structures and regarding how it provided navigation, including through thoughts, feelings, action patterns, and just your sense of self and how that sense of self instinctively navigates reality in different ways and how stimulus is processed, etc. Every little thing going on was directly related with the well-being of very, very specific internal needs. And we can call these attachment needs. Attachment needs. Because the brain and the body originally develop into existence through a process of attachment development. And so a young infant and a young child, little toddler, young child, they start to learn how to navigate and regulate their existence from a clean slate, a fresh start. They've never learned how to navigate or regulate existence before. The body-mind has never been sculpted into existence before. It's never happened before. This divine consciousness came into this fresh, clean blueprint of a potential body-mind, and it hasn't been sculpted yet. And then that little infant and that little toddler and that little child have very specific internal needs. And the process of attachment development, as other people and social engagement experiences tend to those attachment needs, help train and teach the body-mind how to navigate and regulate its own existence. And so then this individual was noticing, okay, everything seems to be connected back to these very specific internal needs. And they seem to be in little sectors where these needs are connected with these needs, but they seem really different from these needs over here. And she began to notice these different correlations between these attachment needs and how they were kind of existing and operating. And then things evolved in a really, really cool way, where then there were new connections being made. And in relation with these attachment needs in their own distinct systems, there seemed to be a remarkable organization of memory data. There seemed to be a remarkable organization of memory data. When you think of memories, it's kind of like, wow, it's vast and infinite, right? Because memories are abstract associations. And so you have memories of roses and memories of grass and memories of swimming pools and memories of kitchens and memories of bedrooms and memories of furniture and memories of plants and memories of animals and memories of emotions and memories of happiness and memories of sorrow and memories of getting your toe stubbed and it really hurt really bad, and memories of moving and memories of opening a refrigerator and memories of making a choice and memories of speaking and memories of learning how to speak and memories of learning how to bike ride and muscle memory and automatic memory, memories that help you know how to type on a computer, memories that help you know how to walk, memories that help you know how to read, memories. There's so, like, it's so infinite the way that there's so much going on. Because every nanosecond of our miraculous existence is gathering all of this information, kind of like hungry hippos, right? They're always like, yes, yes, new information. I'm learning all about how to navigate and regulate my existence. Yes, this moment of experience is teaching me how to exist. Yes, I'm gathering so much data. Yes, yes. The body mind is just like hungry hippos. They're all about gathering information. The body mind's like so eager to learn about how to navigate and regulate existence. The body mind is stoked about it. The body mind's like, yes, this is what I'm here to do. I'm here to learn how to navigate and regulate. So every moment in relation with the well-being of specific internal needs is teaching me, the body mind, how to exist. Okay? And so there was starting to be these observations that even though memories are so vast and so complex, and there's so much to them, there's implicit memories, there's explicit memories, there's episodic memories, there's autobiographical memories, there's factual declarative memories, there's sensational memories, emotional memories, procedural memories, survival responses, muscle memories, there's action patterns, there's learned motor skills, there's all these different things. And then there's memories from childhood and memories from before you can remember when you were an infant. And there's memories during early childhood where the left brain hadn't developed yet. So memories are being gathered differently, which is why a lot of people don't remember obvious things before age 7. Sometimes age 3, age kind of 3 to 7 is when it's starting to click in there. And then after 7, okay, now we're in more memories, but you're still gathering a unified sense of self. So memories are still being processed differently. And then memories from age 7 are processed very differently from memories at age 14 because of the stages of development where puberty and different things are kickstarting different activity that affects the ways that memories are being gathered and stored and organized and processed. And then when you're an adult, you're gathering memories and experiencing life very differently than at age 7 because of all the ways that these memories, especially unconsciously, are existing through navigational programs of the body-mind. And so then there's memory data from every year of life, and there's explicit and implicit details, conscious and unconscious particulars of each moment of memory from every year of life. And then there's memories that have different roles of navigation. The memories that navigate your physical health and well-being might be different from the memories that navigate your emotional health and well-being, or the memories that navigate your health might be different from the memories that navigate your intimacy, or there's all these different things, and then they have different navigational priorities, okay? And then the particulars of the abstract associations are even more infinite. There's memories of what you see. There's memories of what you hear. There's memories of what you feel on your skin. There's memories of what you feel emotionally. There's memories of what you feel somatically, kind of in between your skin and your emotions. And there's memories of what you taste, and there's memories of what you smell, and there's memories of the depth, and there's memories of people, and there's memories of places, and there's memories of things. And all of these memories are flowing through hundreds of trillions of energetic pathways. Okay? Can you fathom something in the terms of trillions? Like if you were to picture ladybugs, can you imagine a collection of ladybugs and you're out in nature and you just look somewhere and you're actually seeing a trillion ladybugs? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine or comprehend or envision the vastness of the number of hundreds of trillions? It's a big number. It's beyond comprehension. It's a big number beyond comprehension. So then all of these memories are flowing through hundreds of trillions of energetic pathways. Hundreds of trillions. Hundreds of trillions in this body-mind. And they're carrying all of the stuff we just talked about, all of the infinite potential associations, all of the vastness from every moment throughout all of the years, all of the details of conscious and unconscious and different types of memories, all of the different roles that have different navigational priorities. They're so complex. Understanding memories is complex. And we are thankfully living in this miraculous time where what we know and how we are able to express what we know is constantly expanding, okay? And so neuroscience discovered that memories exist to provide navigation. Memories, neurobiologically, neuroscientifically, factual in the base of realms of science, memories do not exist to store information about the past. That's not their purpose. That's not their reason for being. Memories have a purpose. Memories have a purpose, and that purpose is not to store information about the past. Memories actually exist as navigational programs in the body-mind. Memories exist as navigational programs in the body-mind. The purpose of memories is to project navigation in present and potential moments. And so when you're in a present moment and there's an interpretation of that moment, memories are unconsciously affecting the interpretation of that present moment. And if there is a thought of a potential moment, what we would call the future, if there's a projection of a potential moment that hasn't happened yet, and it's happening automatically without conscious intervention, it's memories unconsciously projecting navigation. And so memories can be a really helpful tool. When we walk into a familiar place, our ability to know who we are and where we are comes from memories effectively navigating life. But memories can also disrupt navigation. And if there's projections of feelings that aren't feeling good, if there's projections of sensations that maybe are actually past sensations that never got processed, if there's a projection of a habit or a chronic movement pattern that really doesn't serve health and well-being, then that's actually memories disrupting navigation, not providing effective navigation. Okay, so let's go back to the story. There's this individual having all these really unique experiences, started to explore it, despite all the health challenges, whatnot, studied neuroscience. Okay, let's explore it. Piecing together different things, noticed that everything seemed to be connected to very specific internal needs that all traced back to attachment development and how that attachment need carried on through life and affected this body-mind activity that navigates and regulates existence. And then there was the step further in exploring the organization of memories. And so again, even though there's all these complexities, right? Explicit, implicit, every year of life, different navigational roles, different types of memories, infinite associations of all the components and abstract associations and the particulars within memories, what we see, what we hear, what we feel, what we taste, what we smell, what we sense, what we perceive, what we conclude, etc. Every single type of memory, or better expressed, every single type of navigational program being projected from and through the body-mind seem to be directly associated or able to be traced back to these very specific attachment needs. And so there's a couple dozen different attachment needs, but they're all connected with 4 specific systems. There's 4 specific systems of attachments, or 4 specific regions of particular internal needs that are affected by attachment development, including experiences of social engagement that provide or do not provide for the fulfillment of these attachment needs in these 4 systems. 4 systems. Within those 4 systems, though, they connect with each other in specific ways, and there's actually different parts of each of the 4 regions that have even more specific types of information. So there's 4 specific regions, but just like if you're in one room and it has 4 corners, the things that are between those 4 corners might be different. Okay, so if you're in a room and there's 4 corners in the room, but then there's these walls that are stretching between the corners, there might be different pieces of furniture, for example, or different wall hangings and paintings, or tapestries, or different snacks that are placed against the wall that are between those 4 corners. Similarly, even though there's 4 regions, each of the 4 specific systems have even more detailed particulars of distinct little areas that have different types of very specific energies and information. And so this individual began to notice that every single type of memory, better expressed, every type of navigational program being projected from and through the body-mind seemed to be able to be traced back to one of those 4 specific attachment systems. So hundreds of trillions of energetic pathways carrying memories, hundreds of trillions, with all those different associations, explicit, implicit, different types of memories, different, right? There's so much, right? All the complexities, hundreds of trillions. There's a lot of information carrying a lot of different variables. Despite the complexity of all of it was able to be traced back to a specific area and space of these 4 regions. And so atop these 4 specific attachment systems developed 4 specific memory systems. And how experience created information in relation with attachment well-being, then created distinct types of navigational programs, or what we can call meaning-making associations. The body-mind carries abstract associations, and then how experience has been processed in relation with the well-being of specific internal needs then creates these very particular types of meanings or conclusions or messages or navigational programs. And this individual had a very miraculously unique journey, because there was divine consciousness flowing through this body-mind, where the body-mind actually had multiple body-minds in one. There's one physical body, but as far as body-minds go, the mind of the body, the memory centers unconsciously providing navigation and regulation for parts of the essence of the self, there were multiple body-minds in one physical vessel affecting experience for divine consciousness. And so there were actually personal experiences that independently derived from these different memory centers. So there's 4 memory centers, and within that, even more specific regions of data. And there were dozens of independent body minds, and they were all independently encountering a different region, different area of information throughout these 4 systems and their particular energetic corners and crevices. And so while this individual is going through the most intensive and divinely miraculous dark nights of the soul, they were able to trace back their experiences and put them very specifically on a map. A diagrammatic expression of the human experience. And this was something that was brand new. This wasn't something that had been learned from an outside source. This wasn't something that was discovered by studying psychology and neuroscience. This wasn't something that was taught by some other person or institution or anything. This was something that was brand new. And it was being developed through these experiences. And so every day, this individual showed up for this quest, this exploration, this story unfolding. And even with a complete mind-body disconnect, literally 100% disconnect between the mind and the body, even with total brain hemispheric independent activity, like a completely split brain neuroscientifically, even with profound dysregulation of all systems, even with multiple body minds independently navigating and regulating existence in totally different ways, even with not being able to create new conscious explicit memories in relation with a sense of self for 4 years, over 4 years, even with multiple types of severe amnesia and dozens, if not hundreds, of distinct types, unique types of dissociation and not being associated effectively with the self or with components of reality because of this unique navigation and regulation flowing through multiple body minds. And even with the miracle of chronic dissociative age regression, where certain activity of those independent body minds actually cause the body mind to revert to the navigation and regulation of being a young child, ranging from 6 months, 5 years old, 9 years old, 12 years old, 15 years old. Even with all that going on, this individual showed up every single day to invest in these maps, these diagrams, so that there could be a revolutionary understanding of the human experience, so that the truth about how attachment needs of the body-mind are affecting the organization and particulars, the content and the connectivity, the details of what is stored and how it's communicating throughout these other regions, how all of these navigational programs are existing in the body-mind, so that this understanding of where these projections of reality are actually coming from through and within the body-mind could be understood in new ways that just make so much more sense. They just make so much more sense than anything that had ever been discovered before from the lens of this individual, as they had spent decades exploring psychology, years studying neuroscience, and had never come across such a simple and succinct way to effectively understand corners of the human experience that otherwise made no sense. We haven't even gotten to the coolest part yet, though. The most beautiful part about this story is that this individual, and through these expressions of diagrams and maps to make sense of life, was able to distinguish the self from the experience, identity from experience, and the self from the automations of brain-body wiring. And so even when there was all these unique things happening that were finally starting to be understood in a new light, a new way, the actual self who was within the experience began to know the self independent of all of those struggles and all of those particulars and all of those unique experiences. And that self began to understand how the energetic essence of divine consciousness was flowing through body-mind wiring, and how that was creating unique experiences of personal realities. And so the most astounding aspect of these expressions was not just being able to understand hundreds of trillions of energetic pathways and how memories and all their vast complexities are organized through 4 distinct regions in relation with very specific attachment needs, and how every type of navigational program of the body mind could be directly traced back to very specific internal needs, and to be able to take any type of personal experience, any type of thought pattern, any type of emotional pattern, any type of habitual pattern or action pattern, to be able to take any type of translation of personal reality, to take any situation or any chronic experience and be able to actually understand exactly what was going on in a very simple and easy way that moved beyond anything that had already been obviously learned about through neuroscience or psychology. Not only was all of this possible, but the self, divine consciousness, the soul essence, the expansion, the liberation of the true essence of the self was discovered in a new way and able to be known independently of any of those particulars of personal experience, brain-body wiring, or body-mind navigation. Even more wondrous than being able to understand personal experience in these brand new miraculous ways was the ability, potential, and capacity to differentiate aspects of the self from all of those elements of personal experience. To be able to recognize the divine consciousness that was flowing through that brain-body wiring. To distinguish the identity of the sacred soul self from all those automations of navigation and regulation through body-mind projections. And to be able to explore who the self is independently of all of it and within the human experience of all of it. And then to be able to unify with those parts of the self in a new way, because you're starting to get to know them beyond how the body-mind has projected their illusionary identities. You're starting to actually get to know the sacred soul self essence of all that you are. And then from this greater unity and expansion of the self, being able to know yourself beyond the thoughts, beyond the feelings, beyond the habits, beyond the responses, beyond the reactions, beyond the stories, beyond the experiences, beyond the preferences, beyond the relationships, beyond the navigation and regulation of the body-mind, beyond anything you've ever encountered on the earth plane as a human being, to be able to start to get to know the parts of the self for who they truly are, and to help lovingly liberate them from that limiting projection or distortion, to differentiate the self from those chronic experiences of thoughts or feelings or action patterns, etc. To be able to differentiate the self from those experiences, to be able to explore the identity of the self beyond the human experience, and then to rally with the self and then come back fully into it and say, okay, from this expansion, from this liberation, from this grounding in the love of the truth of the essence of identity of the soul self as divine consciousness, then come back within it and say, okay, now I understand who I am, and I understand what's happening inside of my body mind, and now I have power to be deeply connected with myself and reconstruct any region of this body mind so that it can provide navigation and regulation more effectively in relation with who I now know myself to actually be. And then this individual was able to use all of this to transform all of it. And every single thing that I shared, mind-body disconnect, split brain hemisphere, the dysregulation, the independent memory centers that were causing unique experiences that didn't have connection with each other, the independent activity between parts of the self, the disruption, the implicit health challenges, mental, emotional, behavioral, action pattern, relational, spiritual health challenges that were coming from this disruption of navigation and regulation, all of these things, but yeah, mind-body disconnect, brain hemisphere, all of it, every single piece of it was able to be transformed, and then the self was able to expand into more of itself. And so then this individual made it out to the other side, and everything was connected. Brain hemispheres much more connected, mind body much more connected, amnesia starting to heal, it's starting to gradually be able to create new memories again. All these miracles happening. All the independently developed memory centers started to have new connections so that parts could be present with each other, and the body-mind could provide a more unified sense of reality for the self. And all these different implicit health battles started to dissolve gradually, be completely reconstructed regarding their underlying original causality. But then this individual realized that there was no sense of self and there was no memory of any of this story that I just shared. Then this individual came out the other side and had zero memory of anything that was just shared in this story. That story wasn't known as a story. And there was no sense of self. Because it turned out there was still this residual form of amnesia where that individual could not remember any of her life. The individual couldn't remember any of her life at all. Not the original childhood, not the past few years of exploring these ideas, not anything in between. The navigational programs were just like zip-zapped in the most unique dissociative form, a lack of association in the body-mind. And so then these diagrams were kind of put on a back burner because there was a lot of confusion and a lot of pain associated with them. Anytime that the individual would look at these diagrams, there was the pain of not being able to remember anything. And there was the pain of subconscious activity, implicit projections from all of the excruciating things that had contributed to the journey of creating those diagrams. And so there's a pain of not being able to explicitly remember, and then there was an implicit pain of these projections of feelings and sensations and action patterns where the body-mind remembered all of the painful things that had led to creating this miraculous diagram, even though the mind couldn't remember those details. And so for a very long time, this individual could not look at these diagrams because there were all this disruption of body-mind navigation and even just trying to explore them. But here's the thing about stories. The power of divine consciousness and the potential of the body-mind are as infinite and as limitless as the galaxies themselves. And so, hi, I'm here. And that individual in this story was a past version of me. But I'm here now today to share these diagrams because I know the power that they have. And I know that the magic that they hold within them has infinite potential to assist divine consciousness in creating loving liberation for itself, while allowing that energy of love to flow through into the body-mind and create healing restoration. Healing restoration for body-mind wiring, and loving liberation for the divine consciousness of the true self and the infinite soul. And together, this allows for the most transcendent transformation and reclamation of inner power that you could ever imagine. And so I am here today with every passionate fiber of my being and every zealous cell of my existence to share these diagrams now. I've been re-exploring them since healing the experiences that led to creating them. And the more that I explore them, the more astounded I am at their accuracy and precision. It is mind-blowing. It is mind-blowing, the level of detailed specificity regarding how we can explore body-mind wiring and divine consciousness to create loving liberation for the identity of the true self, and to create healing restoration for the navigation and regulation flowing and affected by hundreds of trillions of energetic pathways, and among their infinite potentials carrying unconscious memories. And this story actually began far beyond the story I just shared. Because at the beginning of this story was a young child going through attachment development, as we all do. But their attachment development was unexpectedly disrupted by a severe trauma. But because memories were not yet fully developing at age 4, and because trauma in its nature fragments the processing of memory data, that trauma was completely suppressed and never known about by anybody other than the original being who inflicted the trauma. But even they were most likely completely unconscious to the experience, because they too were divine consciousness flowing through a body-mind, unconscious to who they were, and experiencing disruptions of navigation and regulation that led to inflicting this trauma. And so there is this suppressed trauma at the foundation of the body-mind that wasn't known about. And at the core of everything was that child and that divine consciousness flowing through that body-mind foundation. And so in this process, we get to resculpt our existence from the ground up. In this process, we get to know who the self would have been if there had never been any moments of unfulfilled attachment needs. Through this experience, we get to lovingly liberate all parts of the essence of our true self. Through this process, we get to take any piece of body-mind wiring and resculpt it from the ground up. Through this process, we get to take any navigational or regulational program and reclaim power within it. Through this process, we get to reclaim that foundational essence of our true self. Through this process, we get to re-heal and re-sculpt and remold and recreate and rebuild the attachment systems at the foundation of the body-mind. Through this process, we get to take hundreds of trillions of energetic pathways, understand what allowed them to be sculpted into existence, and what programs they hold regarding navigation and regulation, and how they are affecting experience now. And then in this process, we get to go through and affect how hundreds of trillions of energetic pathways are wired now, no matter what has ever happened before or what information has ever been stored in them. And that is the power of divine consciousness. That is the power of the true self. That is the power of the parts of the self when they can know themselves as love and know themselves independently of personal experience and know themselves beyond the automated projections through body-mind navigation or brain-body wiring. And in this process, any story can be rewritten or dissolved or recreated. And we get to choose that now. I invite you to explore infinite possibility through my work, my services, my creations, my offerings, these diagrams, these treasure maps, and the work of the Implicit Revelations Case Study. You can find out more in the video description below and throughout lots of other amazing free content shared here and in the infinite wonders of my libraries. In every moment, we have power to plant seeds of healing, restoration, transcendent transformation, personal power, reclamation, and loving liberation. And this journey gets to be fun and easy and playful and light and colorful and expansive and joyous every step of the way, no matter what we're going through, no matter if we're facing the greatest depths of darkness and impossibility, no matter if we are going through a process of spiritual awakening, a process of knowing who we actually are, a process of expanding into the divine consciousness of our infinite soul self. And this journey gets to be fun and beautiful and blissful and rewarding every step of the journey, not just when we reach the fulfillment of our destination. And I am grateful and honored to serve as a guide along this journey. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being you. Please explore all my infinite offerings, and I look forward to connecting with you through any of my services and creations or through another of my free content creations here. Have a beautiful and blessed day, and dare to reclaim power of the divine consciousness in your body mind by transcending the story.